Thanks for joining me on short notice. I wanted us to have a proper discussion about our marketing direction before the next planning cycle begins. There are a few areas where I think we need immediate attention.
Morning. No problem at all. This is a good time to regroup. I've been reviewing the dashboards, and some of the insights are encouraging, but there are also a few warning signs we shouldn't ignore.
Exactly. Let's start with performance. How do you feel about the campaigns we ran over the past 8 weeks? I want your honest, unfiltered perspective.
To be honest, it was a mixed quarter. Our brand awareness grew faster than expected. Organic reach was up, impressions were up, and our video content performed significantly better than last quarter. But the challenge is still conversion. We're getting attention, but not enough action.
Yes, I noticed that too. It's almost like people are interested in what we say, but they're stopping before they commit. And that usually means one thing: our value isn't landing clearly enough.
I agree. Our messaging feels a bit too broad right now. It appeals to everyone, but it convinces no one. We need sharper angles and more precise language that speaks directly to the pain points of our core segments.
That's exactly what I've been thinking. Customers today want clarity. They want immediate relevance. If our message doesn't resonate within the first few seconds, they move on.
Absolutely. And we also need more storytelling. People want real stories, real challenges, real customer outcomes, real behind-the-scenes details. The more authentic we sound, the more trust we build.
Speaking of authenticity, I think our brand voice needs refreshing. Right now it's professional, but a little too formal. We need a more conversational tone, something warmer, something human.
Agreed. And on top of that, we need to modernize our visual identity. Our color palette and imagery look slightly outdated compared to our competitors. A small refresh could go a long way.
Let's add that to the list. Moving on. How do you feel about our social media presence, especially LinkedIn and TikTok?
LinkedIn is solid. Our thought leadership content is landing well, and we're positioned as a credible voice in the industry. But TikTok is where we need a real strategy. We're posting occasionally, but we're not consistent, and we're not playing to the platform's strengths.
I agree. TikTok requires fast-paced, impactful storytelling. Even small educational clips or quick behind-the-scenes moments could work. We don't need high production, just authenticity and consistency.
Exactly. And short-form video isn't optional anymore. It's the most powerful medium for reach and engagement. We need to allocate resources properly. Maybe assign a small, dedicated micro team for short-form content.
That's a good idea. What about paid ads? Our cost per click and cost per lead are increasing. What's driving that?
Several factors. The ad market is more competitive this quarter. We're bidding on similar audiences as our competitors. But I also think our creatives aren't differentiated enough. The ads look good, but they blend in. Nothing stands out.
So we need bolder creative ideas, something that interrupts the scroll, something that makes people stop.
Exactly. And we should also test more formats. Carousel ads, motion graphics, even UGC-style videos. These formats are outperforming traditional static ads across the board.
Agreed. Now, let's talk email marketing. Our open rates dropped again. That's the 3rd month in a row.
Yes, I saw that. The issue is personalization. We're sending everyone the same content, regardless of their stage, interests, or history with us. We need dynamic segmentation, personalized journeys, curated messages.
I completely agree. And we should also shorten our emails. People won't read long paragraphs anymore. They skim. We need to deliver value in under 10 seconds.
Absolutely. And we should also add more interactive elements, polls, small questions, clickable insights. Engagement increases when the email feels like a conversation, not a broadcast.
Good point. Now, let's shift to the website. I've been reviewing user behavior, and I noticed people spend time on the homepage, but they're not navigating deeper. That's a red flag.
Yes, I noticed that too. The homepage is strong visually, but it lacks a compelling narrative that guides people forward. We need better pathways, clearer CTAs, more compelling reasons to explore, and stronger proof points.
Exactly. And I think we need more customer success stories. They act as trust signals. People want to see real-world impact.
Absolutely. Case studies, testimonials, real metrics, these are the elements that influence decisions. And the more specific we are, the stronger the impact.
Good. Now, let's talk strategy. If you had to choose the 5 biggest priorities for the next 90 days, what would they be?
I'd say rewriting our value proposition with clearer, sharper, more emotionally compelling messaging. Building a consistent short-form video strategy across TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube Shorts. Refreshing our brand voice and visuals to appear more modern and human. Redesigning key website pages to increase engagement and conversions, and revamping email marketing with new segmentation and more conversational content. These 5 areas will have the highest impact in the shortest time.
I agree completely. And I'd add one more, experimenting with micro-influencers in our space. Their audiences are small, but highly engaged, and authenticity is much higher compared to major influencers.
Absolutely. Micro-influencers can boost credibility quickly, especially when they speak from real experience.
So, summary, new messaging, new voice, new visuals, stronger content, improved user experience, and smarter targeting. That's a solid roadmap.
Definitely. And I'll start drafting a more detailed version of this plan right away. I can have the first outline ready by tomorrow afternoon.
Great. Thanks for the insights. I feel like we're heading in a much stronger direction now.
Likewise, with the right focus, I think we're going to see a major improvement next quarter.
Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. I know your calendar is packed, but I wanted us to sit down and go over our marketing performance from the past quarter, and more importantly, map out what we want to accomplish over the next 3 to 6 months. There's a lot happening in the market, and I think we need to realign our objectives.
Absolutely. Thanks for organizing this. I agree. Things are moving quickly, and we need to make sure our strategy evolves at the same pace. Our competitors are becoming more aggressive, customers' expectations are shifting, and digital platforms are changing week by week. It's definitely the right time for a deeper conversation.
Great. Let's begin with the basics. First, how would you summarize our overall marketing performance last quarter? Not just from a numbers perspective, but holistically. Brand visibility, customer engagement, conversion patterns, campaign effectiveness, all of it.
Sure. To put it simply, we had a mixed performance. On one hand, our reach increased by about 18% across platforms, which is positive. Brand sentiment also improved. We saw more positive comments, more shares, and more mentions. On the other hand, our conversion rate didn't improve at the same pace, and our paid campaigns cost more than we expected. CPC went up, and our CAC has been creeping higher.
Yes, I noticed that too. It's encouraging that visibility and engagement improved, but the fact that conversions didn't follow the same trend means we need to take a closer look at our funnels. It's possible that the audience we're attracting isn't as qualified as we assumed, or maybe our messaging isn't aligned with their current priorities.
Exactly. And honestly, I think part of the issue is that we're still using messaging developed last year. It was effective then, but the market has shifted since then. Customers are more cautious, they're taking longer to make decisions, they're comparing more products before committing. We need to revisit our value proposition and adjust it to today's mindset.
I agree. Messaging refresh is definitely needed. But before we dive into that, let's step back and review the external environment. What are the biggest shifts you're seeing right now in the marketing landscape, both opportunities and risks?
Good question. So first, personalization is becoming absolutely essential. Customers expect brands to tailor communication to their context, their stage in the buying journey, and even their emotional mindset. Second, AI is transforming content creation, audience segmentation, and even campaign optimization. Competitors are using AI-driven tools to target customers more efficiently than before. Third, there's a growing preference for authenticity. Customers want real stories, real faces, real experiences, not overly polished corporate messaging. They want brands to sound human. And finally, the attention span issue is getting worse. We need shorter, sharper content on social platforms, but longer, more insightful content for customers who are evaluating solutions seriously.
That makes sense. And I'm glad you brought up authenticity because I've been thinking a lot about that. We've been producing excellent content, but it might feel too perfect. There's almost no human element, no storytelling, no behind-the-scenes moments that let customers actually connect with us. We might need to adjust our tone.
Absolutely. And to add to that, we should consider showing more of our internal team. Real people explaining their work, sharing their challenges, discussing how we solve customer problems. This kind of content performs extremely well because it builds trust.
Completely agree. Now, let's talk about the marketing funnel specifically. I want us to reevaluate our entire customer journey, from awareness to consideration to purchase and finally to retention. Where do you see the biggest drop-offs right now?
Based on the analytics, the largest drop-off is in the transition from consideration to conversion. People are engaging with our content, visiting the website, downloading resources, but they're not moving to the decision stage. They're hesitating.
That suggests that our trust-building elements might be insufficient. Maybe we need stronger case studies, more testimonials, more social proof, more third-party validation. When customers hesitate, it's usually due to uncertainty.
Exactly. And honestly, I think part of the issue is that our pricing page isn't helping. It's too generic. It doesn't explain value clearly, it doesn't address common objections, and it doesn't highlight what makes us different from our competitors. We need a full redesign.
Agreed. Let's add that to our action list. Complete pricing page overhaul with clearer value messaging and objection handling.
Sounds good. Another thing I want to bring up is our email marketing. It used to be one of our strongest channels, but lately engagement has dropped. Our open rates and click-through rates are lower than the industry benchmark.
I've noticed. What do you think is driving the decline? Is it the content itself, the cadence, the subject lines, or maybe it's segmentation?
Honestly, I think it's all of the above. Our emails feel a bit too formal and promotional. They don't feel conversational. And the frequency isn't consistent. Sometimes we send too many emails in a week, sometimes none. Plus, our segmentation is outdated. Some people receive content they're not interested in anymore.
Right. We need a full email strategy refresh. Voice, cadence, segmentation, everything. And we should incorporate more storytelling and value-driven content instead of pure promotions.
Exactly. And we should definitely test more interactive email elements like microsurveys, short polls, and even embedded videos. These things tend to boost engagement significantly.
Good point. Okay, now let's shift to social media. How do you feel we're performing there?
Social is a mixed picture. Our LinkedIn presence is strong. We're getting good engagement, especially with thought leadership posts, but our Instagram and Facebook activity is declining. The content isn't getting much traction, and I don't think we've adapted to how those platforms have evolved. We also haven't been consistent with short-form video, and that's hurting us.
Yes, short-form video is essential now. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, they're dominating attention. We need to build a dedicated short-form video strategy instead of just repurposing long-form content.
Absolutely. And speaking of video, I strongly recommend that we start producing a weekly mini-series. Something simple like Marketing Insights Monday or Behind the Strategy, where we share quick lessons or updates. It helps with consistency and brand familiarity.
That's an excellent idea. Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about brand positioning. Right now, how would you describe our position in the market?
I'd say we're respected, but not distinctive enough. Customers see us as reliable, but I don't think they see us as innovative or bold. And with the increasing competition, we need a stronger identity, something that sets us apart instantly.
I see your point. So the question is, what should we stand for? What positioning would resonate with our customers and truly differentiate us?
Based on customer feedback, what they value most from us is clarity, simplicity, and the sense that we are easy to work with. I think our positioning should highlight that we make things simple for them. Easy onboarding, clear processes, transparent pricing, and fast support.
Interesting. So something like the most user-friendly solution in the market, or marketing made simple.
Exactly. But we need to phrase it in a way that sounds authentic and credible, not like a buzzword.
Right. Okay, let's refine that later. For now, let's talk about content strategy. I think our content calendar needs a full rebuild. We need a cleaner structure with topical pillars. What do you suggest?
I suggest we'd build around 4 pillars: education, tutorials, guides, best practices; authority, thought leadership, expert commentary, industry trends; connection, behind-the-scenes stories, team interviews, customer highlights; conversion, case studies, product demos, FAQs, comparisons. This gives us a balance across awareness, engagement, and conversion.
I like that. And we need to ensure we repurpose content properly. One long-form asset should become multiple short pieces.
Absolutely. Content multiplication will help us scale without stretching the team too thin.
Okay, let's talk budget. With the rising cost of paid campaigns, do you think we should reduce our paid spending and invest more in organic channels?
Yes and no. We should definitely optimize and reallocate, not cut completely. Paid campaigns still bring value, but we need to focus on higher intent audiences, not broad awareness. Retargeting should be our top priority.
Agreed. And I think we should increase budget for influencer partnerships. Not big influencers, micro-influencers. They bring better engagement and more authentic connections.
Absolutely. And micro-influencers are becoming essential, and they're cost-effective.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's summarize our key actions so we leave this meeting with clarity. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining me today. We have several supply chain and procurement topics to walk through, especially given the volatility we've seen over the past quarter.
Absolutely. I've been preparing updates for our review. With all the disruptions lately, material shortages, transportation delays, and inconsistent supplier performance, it's definitely the right time to reassess our strategy.
Exactly. I want today's meeting to focus on 3 core areas: operational bottlenecks, supplier performance, and strategic procurement initiatives for the next fiscal year. But before we dive into the details, can you give me a quick snapshot of where things stand today?
Sure. Overall, the supply chain is functioning, but we're not operating at optimal efficiency. Lead times have stretched across multiple product categories. Some of our primary suppliers are still struggling with staffing issues and capacity limitations. On the logistics front, freight costs remain elevated due to high fuel prices and limited container availability. And in procurement, we're seeing more aggressive pricing behaviors from vendors.
Understood. Let's break this down. Starting with lead times, what are the current averages compared to our targets?
For raw materials, the average lead time is hovering around 42 days. Our target is 28. For finished goods, we're looking at an average of 55 days, while our target is 35. These extended lead times are primarily due to upstream delays. Suppliers are receiving components late, and production queues are longer than normal.
That's a significant deviation. Have suppliers communicated any recovery plans?
Some have. A few are adding weekend shifts to increase capacity, while others are investing in new equipment. However, progress is inconsistent. Without stronger incentives or long-term commitments from us, suppliers may not move fast enough to address the backlog.
That raises an important point: supplier alignment. How would you rate our supplier engagement right now?
I'd say it's moderate. We have good relationships with many suppliers, but the level of strategic collaboration varies widely. Some treat us as a high-priority customer, while others treat us as just another account. That inconsistency affects visibility, responsiveness, and reliability.
We need to shift that dynamic. Suppliers should see us as partners, not transactional clients. What do you think would help strengthen these relationships?
Several things. Conducting regular performance reviews, sharing long-term projections, offering incentive-based contracts, and giving suppliers clearer insights into our future product planning. Many suppliers often ask for earlier visibility into demand changes. If we improve that, they can plan better.
Agreed. Now, let's talk about procurement costs. Are we still seeing upward pressure from raw material markets?
Unfortunately, yes. Steel, copper, plastics, and specialized chemicals. Prices have gone up across the board. Some industries are stabilizing, but others remain volatile. Suppliers are passing on increases quickly, citing global demand, energy prices, and inventory shortages.
And how much leverage do we have in these negotiations?
It depends on the category. In some areas, our volume gives us bargaining power, but when materials are scarce, suppliers prioritize availability over price. In those cases, negotiation becomes more about securing supply rather than lowering cost.
True. A stable supply is often more valuable than a cost reduction, but we still need to find savings where possible. Do you see any opportunities?
Yes, several. We could consolidate suppliers to increase our volume share, renegotiate contract terms based on long-term commitments, explore alternative materials, and optimize our transportation lanes. We should also evaluate nearshoring options for items that have repeatedly caused disruptions.
Nearshoring. Yes, that's something I've been thinking about. It may cost slightly more per unit, but the reliability could be worth it. What regions are good candidates?
Mexico, Eastern Europe, and parts of Southeast Asia, where lead times are shorter and logistics networks are more stable. Depending on the product category, these regions could reduce our exposure to long-haul shipping risks.
Good. Let's explore those options in detail. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about forecasting. How accurate have our forecasts been lately?
Not where we want them to be. Accuracy is around 74% on average. Several departments haven't been aligning properly, especially between sales and production planning. When marketing launches a promotion without giving supply chain adequate time to prepare, the ripple effect extends throughout the entire network.
That happens far too often. We need clear rules of engagement. Do you think implementing a formal S&OP or sales and operations planning process would help?
Absolutely. A structured S&OP cycle brings transparency, accountability, and cross-functional alignment. It forces every department to agree on one set of numbers, one version of the truth. It also improves responsiveness when market conditions shift.
Then let's move forward with that initiative. I want a pilot program in place within 8 weeks. Now, let's talk about inventory levels. Are we still carrying excess stock?
Yes, particularly in two product families. Demand has been lower than forecasted, but we had already increased safety stock levels due to earlier supply disruptions. As a result, our carrying costs have gone up and some warehouse space is nearing capacity.
Lower than expected demand combined with higher safety stock is a dangerous combination. What do you propose as the corrective action?
I recommend a phased approach. Reduce safety stock to adjusted levels, prioritize slow-moving inventory and sales promotions, rebalance stock between distribution centers, evaluate obsolescence risk, and set mitigation plans. This approach would reduce carrying costs without jeopardizing service levels.
Sounds reasonable. Now, let's talk about logistics. How are shipping delays trending?
They've improved slightly, but they're still unpredictable. Ocean freight continues to face congestion at several ports, while air freight remains expensive. Domestic trucking has stabilized somewhat, but capacity fluctuates week to week.
Are our logistics partners meeting their commitments?
Most are, but a few are underperforming. Delivery windows have been missed, and communication hasn't always been proactive. We're monitoring their metrics closely and discussing remedies during quarterly reviews.
Good. If necessary, we should consider switching providers. Reliability is non-negotiable. Speaking of reliability, how are our risk management practices holding up?
They've improved, but we're still behind leading organizations.
We have basic contingency plans for supplier failure and transportation delays, but we lack deeper scenario modeling, dual sourcing strategies, and real-time visibility tools that can preempt disruptions.
We must strengthen our resilience. Disruptions are becoming more frequent, not less. Are we evaluating any new technology platforms?
Yes, we're reviewing 3 end-to-end supply chain visibility solutions. These tools provide real-time shipment tracking, predictive analytics, and automated alerts. They integrate well with our ERP system and could streamline communication with suppliers and carriers.
That's encouraging. Technology will be essential for improving agility. What's the expected cost?
Subscription fees range from mid-level to premium tiers. The investment is significant, but the ROI could be substantial. Reduced delays, fewer manual hours, improved accuracy, and better customer service.
Return on investment isn't just financial, it's operational and reputational. Let's continue evaluating those options.
Will do. Another topic we should address is supplier compliance, especially sustainability metrics, ethical sourcing, and audit requirements.
Yes, compliance has become a major priority. Are suppliers meeting our standards?
Most are, but a few require improvement. We've identified gaps in traceability documentation, environmental reporting, and labor practice certifications. If these gaps aren't resolved quickly, they could affect our ability to meet corporate sustainability goals.
Then we need stricter enforcement. Are we conducting enough audits?
Not as many as we should. Travel restrictions slowed our audit schedule, and we're still catching up. I recommend hybrid audits, virtual assessments combined with on-site visits where needed.
Good idea. Now, let's shift to strategic procurement initiatives. What major goals should we prioritize next year?
I recommend focusing on supplier diversification, long-term cost stabilization, digital procurement transformation, sustainability and ESG compliance, enhanced contract lifecycle management, and enhanced supplier collaboration programs. These initiatives will strengthen both operational resilience and competitive advantage.
Excellent list. Let's go deeper into digital procurement. What's the current status of e-procurement adoption?
Only partial adoption so far. Some teams are using the platform actively while others still rely on legacy processes, manual purchase orders, email approvals, and fragmented documentation. To achieve full digital transformation, we need stronger leadership endorsement and structured training.
Understood. Let's make digital procurement mandatory across all departments within the next 2 quarters. No exceptions.
Agreed. I'll work with IT and HR to develop a training roadmap.
Perfect. Next, let's talk about innovation. Are any suppliers proposing new technologies or ideas that...
Well, first, supplier performance. Over the last 2 quarters, our Tier 1 suppliers have shown a noticeable decline in on-time delivery metrics. Our average dropped from 94% down to 87%. On paper, a 7-point decline doesn't look catastrophic, but operationally, it creates bottlenecks.
And not just bottlenecks, cascading effects. Production sequencing gets disrupted, labor hours rise, inventory buffers shrink, and ultimately, the customer lead times expand. It's a domino effect.
I've observed the same. And the root cause seems multi-layered. For example, our main electronic component supplier is struggling with their own Tier 2 shortages. They're dealing with chip constraints and raw material inconsistencies. Also, one of our packaging suppliers had a labor strike. It slowed production for almost 3 weeks. They didn't communicate proactively, which is a bigger concern for me.
Exactly. Communication gaps at the supplier level are risk multipliers. If we're blindsided, it compromises our entire chain. We need to reinforce our supplier relationship management framework. SRM isn't just a buzzword, it's a survival tool. I'm thinking of implementing quarterly performance reviews instead of biannual ones.
I support that. But we shouldn't just review them, we should collaborate with them. For instance, joint forecasting sessions, shared dashboards, and formalized escalation paths when risks emerge. One thing I'd emphasize is capacity visibility. Many suppliers don't give us transparent views of their real capacity constraints. If we had clearer insight into their production schedules, we could anticipate delays instead of reacting to them.
I agree. Transparency is fundamental. We might need to renegotiate certain contracts to include mandatory visibility requirements, production schedules, capacity thresholds, and contingency plans. But renegotiations only go well when both sides see mutual benefit. So we need to approach suppliers with a partnership mindset, not a demanding customer mindset.
Exactly. It's about collaborative resilience. When our suppliers are strong, we're strong. When they struggle, we struggle. We need to stop pretending otherwise. Let's move to cost management. Our procurement costs have increased by an average of 9.3% year over year. Some of this is inflation-driven, some is freight-related, some is due to raw materials like aluminum and resin skyrocketing. But I also see inefficiencies on our side. For example, we still don't leverage bulk purchasing as strategically as we could.
True. Volume consolidation could save us hundreds of thousands annually, but departments tend to purchase independently because they're focused on short-term needs. They don't always coordinate with procurement early enough. We should enforce a policy that all major purchasing decisions go through procurement, not as an approval bottleneck, but as a strategic safeguard.
I'd support that.
Procurement should be an enabler, not just a gatekeeper. We also need to explore long-term fixed-price contracts, especially for commodities that fluctuate heavily. Locking in prices during low market windows creates predictability and protects margins.
Yes, and it strengthens budgeting accuracy. But we must balance fixed price contracts with flexibility. If we lock in poorly, we risk overpaying when the market drops. So we need a data-driven approach. Price trends, forecasts, seasonality patterns, global market indicators.
Agreed. That's where analytics comes in. Big data isn't optional anymore. I'd like to propose building a more advanced procurement analytics dashboard. Real-time pricing curves, supplier health indexes, lead time signals. It would help us negotiate smarter contracts and predict disruptions before they hit.
That would be game-changing, and cost reporting would become more proactive instead of reactive. Right now, we analyze cost increases after they happen. With predictive analytics, we'd anticipate them.
Risk management is the next big topic. Over the past few years, global supply chains have faced unprecedented disruptions. Pandemics, geopolitical tensions, shipping congestion, port closures, raw material shortages. And honestly, the volatility isn't slowing down. Risk is becoming a constant, not an exception.
Absolutely. And that means our contingency planning must be more mature. Our current strategy is functional, but not robust. For example, we rely on single-source suppliers for several critical components. Our safety stock calculations are outdated. Our alternative suppliers aren't fully qualified. If a major disruption hits, we'd struggle.
You're right. Single sourcing is convenient, but dangerous. It reduces administrative work, but increases risk exposure exponentially. I think we should implement a dual sourcing strategy for all critical materials within the next 18 months.
Ambitious, but necessary. Some suppliers may resist, but the long-term stability is worth it. Another area we need to strengthen is scenario planning. We should map out worst-case scenarios and define our responses ahead of time. That way, when a disruption occurs, we're not scrambling.
Exactly. Crisis response shouldn't start during a crisis. It should start during planning. We also need digital tools, risk maps, automated alerts, predictive models. Many companies already use these. If we don't modernize, we'll be at a competitive disadvantage.
Let's talk inventory. Our inventory turnover rate has dropped slightly. While some of that stems from additional safety stock, some is caused by misaligned forecasting. Demand volatility keeps throwing off our planning teams. When sales forecasts shift suddenly, procurement either over-purchases or under-purchases.
I've seen the same. And it's not just forecasting. The communication flow between departments needs improvement. Sales, operations, procurement, and supply chain are not always synchronized. We need a more unified planning model. Maybe even a SNOP, Sales and Operations Planning, framework with monthly cross-functional alignment.
That would help immensely. If everyone operates with the same forecast, updated regularly, our inventory would become more balanced. Fewer shortages, fewer overstocks, and forecasting accuracy could improve by integrating market intelligence, seasonal trends, customer behaviors, promotional plans.
Exactly. Data must drive decisions. For too long, forecasting has relied on intuition rather than analytics.
Michael, I'm glad you brought up digital tools earlier, because digital transformation is no longer optional in procurement and supply chain. Automation, AI, machine learning, these aren't future technologies, they're current necessities.
Absolutely. We need to automate repetitive procurement tasks like purchase order generation, invoice matching, and supplier onboarding. It frees up our team to focus on strategic work instead of administrative work.
And with automation comes accuracy. Manual data entry creates errors, sometimes costly errors. Automation reduces that risk. We should also consider implementing a supplier portal where suppliers can update their own information, upload documents, review purchase orders, confirm deliveries. It speeds up communication and reduces confusion.
Agreed. And predictive analytics could help us anticipate demand patterns, transportation delays, even potential supplier failures. Imagine getting alerts before a supplier experiences financial distress. That would give us time to act preemptively, not reactively.
Let's shift to sustainability. Our customers are increasingly asking for transparent sourcing. They want to know where materials come from, whether labor conditions are ethical, whether suppliers adhere to environmental standards. Sustainability is no longer a marketing initiative. It's a compliance requirement.
I completely agree. We need to audit suppliers more thoroughly. Not just cost and quality, but environmental impact, labor practices, carbon footprints. We should develop a supplier code of conduct, clear expectations, and mandatory compliance.
Yes, and we need life cycle assessments, understanding the environmental impact of each product from raw material extraction to disposal. Companies that ignore sustainability will fall behind. Regulations are tightening, and customers are becoming more conscious.
And sustainability often leads to efficiency. For example, optimized packaging reduces waste and saves costs. Energy-efficient processes reduce emissions and reduce operational expenses.
Another area to review is logistics. Freight costs are volatile. Ocean rates jump wildly, air cargo capacity fluctuates, port dwell times vary unpredictably. We need better freight strategies, carrier diversification, contracted rates, multimodal flexibility.
Yes. And we should evaluate alternative routes and ports to reduce dependency on single corridors. For instance, if one major port is congested, we should have predefined alternatives. Also, real-time shipment tracking would give us visibility into delays before they escalate.
Exactly. And we need to maintain strong relationships with logistics providers. When capacity tightens,
Good morning. I appreciate you joining me a little earlier than usual. I thought it would be helpful for us to take a deeper look at the direction our marketing initiatives are taking. The past quarter has given us a lot of insights, some encouraging, some a bit concerning, and I believe we need a full, honest conversation about how we're operating and where we want to steer things. How are you feeling about everything so far?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you. And yes, I agree. I think this conversation is important. Over the last few weeks, especially as we analyze the performance metrics, I got the sense that our strategies are effective in certain areas, but falling short in others. So I'm glad we're sitting down to talk through the bigger picture. There's a lot happening in the marketing world right now. Consumer behavior is shifting, digital platforms keep evolving, and I think we need to revisit our approach to ensure that we're not just keeping up, but staying ahead. Where would you like to start?
Let's begin with the fundamentals. When we look at our brand right now, the overall awareness is solid, the engagement is decent, but the conversions, well, I think we both know they're not where we projected them to be. There's a disconnect somewhere in the funnel. I want us to identify that gap. We've invested significantly in content, in paid advertising, in partnerships, and even in experiential marketing. But the ROI isn't landing quite right. What's your perspective on the cause?
I've been thinking about that as well. One thing that stands out to me is that while our messaging is strong, it may not be as differentiated as it needs to be. In the current market, especially with competitors taking bolder creative risks, our tone sometimes feels too safe. It's professional, yes, but maybe not memorable enough. I also noticed that our targeting parameters, particularly in the digital space, might be too broad. We're reaching a high number of users, but not necessarily the right ones. And the more platforms push algorithmic personalization, the more essential it becomes for us to refine our messaging for very specific segments. Do you think the issue might also be internal? Maybe our teams are overwhelmed with parallel campaigns?
That's a good point. I've noticed some internal strain, especially with our creative and analytics teams. They're talented, no doubt, but we've stretched them across too many deliverables at once. And when the workload gets fragmented, the strategic depth suffers. I think the teams are producing content, but they don't always have time to step back and ask, is this the best possible angle? Is this aligned with our core narrative? We might be unintentionally prioritizing quantity over quality, and that's never ideal in marketing. Do you think restructuring workflows could help?
Absolutely. Streamlining would help immensely. But I also think we need to examine how we're briefing our teams. Our briefs have been detailed, but maybe too rigid. Creativity thrives when there's clarity, but also room for exploration. Perhaps we need to make our briefs more strategic rather than tactical, focus on the why and the outcome we expect, and let the teams experiment with the how. That's where the magic often happens. Also, I've been meaning to ask, how do you feel about the consistency of our brand voice lately?
In all honesty, I think our brand voice is drifting. Not drastically, but enough for me to notice. Different campaigns sound slightly different from each other. Some are more formal, some lean more conversational, others sound almost playful. If a customer encounters all three styles within the same week across different platforms, it might confuse them about who we are as a brand. Consistency is key, especially when building long-term trust. But I also don't want to restrict creativity. How do we balance consistency with innovation?
I think the solution is a stronger brand voice framework, not just guidelines, but a deeper articulation of how we speak in different contexts. For example, we could define a core tone that always remains the same, structured, confident, customer-centric, but then create variations for different touchpoints. Social media could be more conversational, corporate communications more formal, customer support more empathetic, advertising more emotionally engaging. That way, the core stays intact, but we give our team flexible lanes to work within. That framework could eliminate a lot of guesswork, but of course, it requires effort and training.
Yes, and I'm willing to invest in that. Because at the end of the day, our marketing isn't just about campaigns, it's about shaping perception. And if our voice is inconsistent, the perception becomes fragmented. Speaking of perception, I wanted to ask your thoughts about our public presence. Do you feel that we're projecting enough thought leadership, Or are we still stuck in reactive mode, responding to trends rather than setting them?
If I'm being honest, we're still too reactive. We wait for industry trends to emerge, and then we follow them. But the brands that really stand out, the ones people quote, share, and reference, they're the ones creating the trends. They're releasing original insights, hosting meaningful conversations, sparking debates. They're not afraid to take a stance. I think we should publish more research, strengthen our content strategy with high-value white papers, maybe host webinars or roundtables with experts. That would position us as leaders rather than participants. Do you think leadership would support that shift?
I believe so. Leadership has been encouraging us to be more visible, more bold. They've approved budgets for initiatives that lean towards innovation. What they want, what we all want, is meaningful impact. But impact requires consistency and foresight. If we can demonstrate that these thought leadership initiatives will elevate the brand, I think we'll get full support. Another question, what's your take on our current customer acquisition strategy?
Acquisition. I think we're overspending relative to the returns. Our cost per acquisition has increased steadily, even though our targeting should, in theory, be getting more precise. That suggests something is off. Either our creative isn't compelling enough to generate conversions, or our landing pages aren't optimized to capture interest effectively. We're investing heavily in getting people's attention, but once we have it, we're not converting efficiently. We should probably redesign the user journey, simplify the steps, make the value proposition clearer, and test shorter forms. And we need stronger A/B testing discipline.
I agree. I've noticed that our landing pages are visually appealing, but they ask too much of users up front. Modern consumers want clarity instantly. They want to know exactly what they're getting, why it matters, and how quickly they can act on it. If we overwhelm them with text or multiple calls to action, they drop. Simplicity is not just aesthetic, it's strategic. And about A/B testing, I feel we're not running tests long enough or gathering enough data before declaring a winner. We might be rushing decisions because of deadlines.
That's true. Testing needs discipline. We need to allow experiments to run their full course, and we need to test more dramatically different concepts, not just small variations. Sometimes the biggest insights come from bold tests. For example, changing the entire structure of a headline or shifting from a rational appeal to an emotional one. Those types of tests can reveal what truly resonates with our audience. Speaking of resonance, have you taken a look at the social sentiment reports?
Yes, I reviewed them yesterday, and I noticed something interesting. The sentiment isn't negative, but it's muted. People respond politely, but not passionately. We have a presence, but not a voice that moves people. I think we need to inject more humanity into our storytelling. We're great at presenting value, but we're not always great at evoking feeling. And in marketing, emotion drives loyalty. Maybe we need to revisit our narrative.
Definitely. Storytelling is everything. Facts inform, but stories inspire. When people connect emotionally with a brand, they remember it, talk about it, and advocate for it. We should explore new narrative angles, stories about our customers, our team, the challenges we help solve, the journey behind our innovation. Authentic, real stories, not just polished branding. Do you think we should involve the product team more in storytelling?